other way.
What's going on, guys? Greek Freak here, and in this video we're going to be talking about Russell Westbrook and now going into trade rumors now that Paul George has been traded to the Clippers. Now with this, the Thunder are going into a full rebuild mode. Now if you remember from previous videos that I made, I was talking about the fact that the Thunder were looking at not keeping this team exactly the same. They wanted to get rid of somebody like Steven Adams, most likely, in order to keep themselves underneath the cap. Now, of course, now they are under the cap with a trade that ends up sending Paul George away. Now, they weren't, of course, choosing to send him away, but he, of course, demanded for a trade request. And whenever we look at a trade surrounding Russell Westbrook, the major thing is going to be the salary as far as to unload that, which is going to be next year at a $38 million, $41 the next, $43 the year after, and around $46.5 for a player option that he will most likely be using in 2020-23. So that's going to be the main thing that many people will have to be concerned about, will be the money of which he will be owed throughout that. Now, of course, stat-wise, we know the fact he's a multi-time All-Star and only missing it one time after his first 2 seasons in the NBA. Right now, this year, having 23 points per game, 11 rebounds per game, around almost 11 assists per game, 2 steals per game, and 6.5% from the free throw line, which was his worst he's ever shot before since his rookie season. So he's usually a pretty predominantly good free throw shooter, as he was an 85% free throw shooter this year in the playoffs. So for many people, it was a very big shock to see him shoot that bad from the free throw line. But in this case, we already know the fact that the Oklahoma City Thunder have already tried to trade Russell Westbrook. Now, this was with Paul George to the Toronto Raptors. Now, the Toronto Raptors were not willing to trade away some of their younger assets, such as Pascal Siakam, and the fact that it would be very difficult to get 2 max players, as we've never really seen a team trade away 2 max key players, especially with the salary cap the way that it is today and the salaries the way they are right now. So it is very rare that we will ever see something like that ever happen. But now that it's going to be an individual trade, we know the fact that it's a possibility that they're going to be looking to trade Russell Westbrook. Now, there's multiple reasons why the Oklahoma City Thunder are going to have to trade Russell Westbrook in this case now. And that is the fact that they do have a whole bunch of bad contracts. I've mentioned this before in previous times, and I will just state it again. And that is the fact that back whenever Kevin Durant was making his decision to leave the Oklahoma City Thunder to go to Golden State, one of the things that I definitely noticed, and I'm sure he had to have noticed as well, is the fact that at that time, Russell Westbrook was the 4th highest paid player on that team, if Kevin Durant re-signed with them. Now, that would mean the fact that there were 2 other people other than Kevin Durant getting paid more than Russell Westbrook, and those players were Steven Adams and Enes Kanter. Now, as you may guess, that's probably not somebody you want to be owing this money. Now, when you're a small name franchise, you usually do have to pay more money for these players that are not usually at that type of level. Now, you're talking about, of course, 2 NBA players who have never reached all-star games being paid more than a player who only missed 2 at that time of his contract. So, of course, when they did have Russell Westbrook come around, it was obviously for him to sign that supermax contract with the Oklahoma City Thunder. But whenever we see something like that, it's obviously going to come around now that Paul George ended up deciding to leave in a trade request. They were not expecting a trade request at that point. It hit them sort of out of nowhere. So now in this situation, they're going to be a team that currently is constructed. It's going to be a team outside of the playoffs looking in. So whenever we see that, that's of course not a great thing. Now, of course, we saw the Pelicans get a good draft pick out of it, but it's very rare. Just because the odds have changed, it just means you have less chances of getting that number 1 pick as a lower team. So right now, this is going to put them in a very bad situation right here. So what they have to do, of course, is still increase their chances of getting a draft pick if they know the fact they're not going to be contending at this point. And somebody like Russell Westbrook, as we all do know, was capable of bringing a team in the Western Conference. Granted, I will say a little bit of a worse Western Conference at that time. Not a bad Western Conference by any means, but definitely the level has definitely changed where it is almost consistently, to me, at least one all-star per team, and with a multiple either deep team in the bench or another all-star together. So in this situation, I don't see them being to me, a playoff favorite to make the playoffs, but I could see them being a team that could contend, and that's something that the Thunder really don't even want to happen right now. So if you have somebody like Russell Westbrook and you sent him to me, an Eastern Conference team, you could have him alone probably send your team to a playoff game. So in that situation, I think the fact that yes, there's going to be teams that are going to be interested in this, and I will be most likely making multiple videos on this due to the fact that I don't want to make too long of a video as far as every single team. But as far as what I will go with, I will say the fact that the teams that you're going to be looking for that the Thunder are going to have to trade with are going to be teams that have at least one all-star already, and if they're in the Eastern Conference, and if they're in the Western Conference, they're going to have two all-star caliber players already and are looking for a third one. So in that case, I could see in the Eastern Conference somebody like Detroit and somebody like the Rockets in the West. As we've already seen, they have obviously tried to pursue other players before and are willing to trade away assets. Now, I guess I'm going to, of course, talk about why Russell Westbrook did not really work out well with the Thunder as far as winning in the playoffs. And my main reason would have to be the team was never really built fully around him. Now, one thing that we do know is Russell Westbrook is not a great three-point shooter, and he's a very athletic guard who goes towards the basket. And one thing that we do know is the fact that during the playoffs, we do not see people getting foul calls the same way going straight to the basket. You have to be able to either make a shot or be able to pass it out to three-point shooters. And the Oklahoma City Thunder are not a great three-point shooting team, as they don't really have too many players that can make threes. As I mentioned in many ways, I think the fact that you have to send him to a team, if you're a team interested in Russell Westbrook, you want to have three-point shooting available once you get him. Not just have another star player, you want to be able to add that to him. So with that, I think the fact that that's something you're going to be looking for in that retrospect. Now, of course, we know the fact that he has the ability to pass. He has one of the best players for driving into the basket and passing it out to a three-point shooter. Unfortunately, his team does not have many of them, and that's really a big concern if you're going to be trading for him. So you have to make sure you have somebody like that. But guys, tell me what your guys' thoughts are on this news. I think the fact that it is just a huge shock that it changed so quickly for Paul George and out of nowhere. Of course, that big news now with the Clippers. But guys, if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure that you guys leave a like and subscribe to become part of the Greek Army today. And as always, this is Sparta.